Welcome to your Daily 5 for Thursday, February 20th, 2025. I saw an Ars article, which of course I'll link in the show notes, that was talking about a paper in Nature that Microsoft published that had to do with a tool that they are developing to basically generate through some kind of generative tool, an AI tool of some kind, to be able to generate the geometry, the landscape, the actual world of video games so that people wouldn't have to actually model the entire thing. And currently, according to this article and from the screenshots you can see in it, it is still at a pretty early stage. So this is not anything that's ready to start making, the next Call of Duty or whatever. It is still in the early kind of low res period of its development. But as with many of these things, I'm sure it's only a matter of time before they're able to actually scale it up they'll be able to scale it up. Whether it'll be cost efficient, of course, that's always the question with AI stuff. But I'm sure that they will be able to make it capable of creating high-res textures and high-res worlds. And, the general temptation with anything when it comes to generative AI tools is to be on one side of the debate or the other. That's typically where it ends up. Either you're all in or you're all out. And I think, as with so many things in life, an extremist position is probably not the right one in the long term. So I try to look at these things as objectively as possible on a case-by-case basis. Now, there is a lot of junk out there, but it's also an undeniable fact, and you can see a lot of reporting on this, and it's not anything new, that the video game industry is not in a healthy state. It is bloated with games that are costing far too much, requiring way too much time, and because of the rising budgets involved, almost nobody can create a game that will make back the amount of money that was spent on it. It's a vicious cycle where you spend more and more to try to sell more and more, but then you have to sell more and more to justify the cost originally. And of course, there are the outliers like, say, Rockstar that make Grand Theft Auto and they'll make all their money back within a week. Although even that will not last forever. Everybody just thinks every one of these games is going to be a blockbuster. There will come a day where they'll make a game and it will not make back enough money. And nothing lasts forever. So this is one of those cases where this type of tool, I don't think would replace a human artist, but would probably allow the video game artists who work on this stuff to spend more time working on things that my guess is they'd have more fun working on. Because, and feel free, if you know somebody who does this work and genuinely just loves it top to bottom and would hate this tool. But see, to me, what this tool should be is, okay, human artist, or a number of them, create the world. They know what they want to make. They create assets for it and artwork for it. They feed it into this thing and say, okay, generate this many square miles or whatever it is for the game based on these assets and the world that we want to create. That doesn't eliminate the human artist. What it does is it stops them having to spend all their time modeling a bunch of landscape geometry that honestly is largely repetitive. And let's be honest, in most games, you barely even notice. I'm not going to say that it's unimportant. It absolutely is. Atmosphere is a huge component when used properly in games. But there's also large stretches of many games, and we all know this, that you run by and you're really not paying attention because you're trying to get to the next point on the map. Or you're in a battle and you really don't have time to look at it. There are a few games, but not many, that really just encourage you to look at the landscape. Most of them are using the landscape as a method of traversal from one point to another, or again, as kind of a canvas to put a big action set piece on. So my suspicion is that for many artists, they would actually like this tool, assuming it didn't replace them as the artists. It was the starting point was them and what they wanted to see, and then they fed it into this thing, and like I said, make, okay, X number of size, map, whatever, based on what I fed you. That allows them more time to refine things they want to work on different things. It feels like, and of course, don't get me wrong, a big company can always ruin this. It can always go south, and it might, and we don't know what the actual cost of scale would be. But as a concept, this feels like one of those things where generative tools would actually augment human creativity, not replace it, and not be something that would end up making people upset that it was being used. Again, if used properly. That's always the caveat for any technology, unfortunately, but let's assume that it was. My guess is that the artists who work on this stuff would probably welcome something like this. I could be wrong. Again, if anybody knows of somebody who does this work and wants to give me a counterpoint, I'm happy to hear it. But when I read this and kind of looked at it, I thought, okay, this is a case where one of these tools feels like it would actually help people as opposed to replace them. And I'm all for that. Later.